Think about the next two. Appeals to emotion, argument against the person. They're short, relatively easy to understand, but they're used a lot. And in some cases, you might even say they're not that bad. But again, they are recognized as fallacies. So let's look at appeals to emotion. It's very common. We often make emotional appeals when we're trying to persuade people. So this is emotion as a vehicle of persuasion. So what's the real problem? It's not using rationality. So if I'm trying to get, like, think about it. If you were asked to work at a charity and I put you in charge and I say, look, got to get those donations up. I want you to start to getting out there, devise a plan. Get people to give more to this charity. How would you do it? Well, probably you would look at trying to persuade people by showing them, examples of human or animal suffering or whatever, and looking at appealing to their humanity. Often, when we say appealing to someone's humanity, it's not necessarily someone's sense of reason. It's maybe someone's sentiments, someone's emotions, and those aren't necessarily bad. But the reason why, in this case, it is a fallacy is because, strictly speaking, it's not an argument, right? It is an appeal to a person's emotion, and we all know that emotions are great motivators, right? Because I can say to you, you should start your essay now, you should start your assignment now. Rationally, you can be thinking, yep, that's sure I should, yes, I should. But what's going to really get people motivated? Well, it's often a little bit of fear or a little bit of panic. Oh, I got to get going now, and you feel that kind of adrenaline, that visceral reaction. So persuasion comes in a variety of ways, right? Through the argument, through rationality, and validity, soundness, and all that stuff. But appeals to emotion are a way of persuasion that is regarded as a fallacy simply because it's non-rational. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. So once again, you might say, well, it's not a terrible thing to have an emotional appeal, but look at where an emotional appeal might be inappropriate. If if I have to grade someone on something and someone wants just a better grade out of pity or whatever, is that necessarily fair to other people who produced the content that was required, and someone is asking for a pity grade or something like that? Basically, it's the same thing as many of these fallacies. It might be okay in one place, but not necessarily in another. And this is all what I've been trying to impress upon you, is the difficulty of recognizing when something might be a good argument. So even in some cases, the appeal to emotion might not be a bad thing. The next one that is the argument against the person. And that's simply where you don't believe someone because of who they are, right? So this is sort of the reverse of the one about the argument from authority, is you believe someone because of who they are. You might not believe someone because of who they are. And so you might say, well, this is irrelevant. So this is instead of, and this, again, very common. This one too, where people will, somebody utters a proposition or has a certain perspective, and they're attacked not for their perspective, but they're regarded as some kind of person you just shouldn't trust anyway. That person is absolutely untrustworthy. But again, sometimes some places, it's not necessarily bad to say, like in a court or whatever, maybe some people are an untrustworthy witness or unreliable. Someone if you've known a long time who's always lied to you, is it terrible if you're really leery of trusting what they say? That is a kind of ad hominem or argument against the person, but it's not necessarily bad. But this is where it is bad, is if you have no good grounds to attack or worry about the character. But in general, think of it this way, as sort of a heuristic device, that instead of looking at the character, we look at what the people are actually saying, as opposed to looking at character. So it's a good thing always to avoid this, like most fallacies, as much as you can. But that doesn't mean that it is never an okay thing to take into account.